My name is Izzy Isaacs, and today I have the absolute pleasure of introducing Rebecca Schweitzer. You may recognize her name from the monthly emails she sends listing all the amazing service opportunities, but she's much more than that. Not only is she super smart, but also if you need to know anything about recent pop culture, she's your source. Remember one of the Mr. Valentine slideshows on pop culture? That was her. Also, she's one of the coolest, calmest, and most collected people you'll ever meet. In AP Chem last year, through blood, sweat, and tears, you never saw her falter. She's the epitome of grace and ready to help you with any questions you have about topics ranging from chemistry to Trisha Paytas. So, without further delay, I give you the SMCF Community Service Chair and Harry Styles superfan, Rebecca Ann Schweitzer.
Everything was set out perfectly. My sister Morgan and I had successfully transformed this old shoebox. We had designed this mini house with the utmost care and best toy furniture. All we needed to finish off the table set with tiny plates and cups was the drop of pancake batter we put on the skillet, effectively creating a breakfast the perfect size for who we were serving. A fairy. Today would finally be the day we saw a real-life fairy. Our efforts in Clareville had proven unsuccessful thus far, but perhaps the fairy community around my grandparents' home in Garland, Texas was more active. I also felt much more confident in our efforts and their ties to reality compared to my previous understanding of the fairy race. For context, when somewhere around 6-year-old me, who found the Tinkerbell movies very impactful, finally switched from bathing to showering, I had an utterly shocking revelation about my true identity that I had to keep secret from the world. I was a water fairy. I should have known all along, but the water running from my fingertips was just undeniable. What felt like months passed of me repressing my true self, and I could not keep this in any longer. I told Morgan, scared of how she might react. Her, being the older sister, figured I could not stay this out of touch and informed me that my powers had actually just been the water coming down from the shower and running down my arms, therefore giving the illusion that I was truly a waterbender. This was devastating, but I admitted this made sense. Now that I filled you in on my history of fairy understanding, you can see why it seemed far more plausible to me that fairies were in fact just how they are depicted in Tinkerbell. So small and fast-moving that you can barely see them, and not me under my shower head. Once we finalized our perfect arrangement, all there was left to do was wait. However, this proved difficult for 2 young girls on a sunny Texan day in summer. And more importantly than our distraction, true fairy lovers know that fairies do not like to be spotted by imprudent humans, so it would actually just be in the best interest of both parties for us to go about our day in order to return to the predicted marvel of evidence proving a delightfully enjoyed breakfast, which could obviously be confirmed by traces of pixie dust at the scene. It was not long before my sister burst into our shared room at my grandparents' house to notify me that she indeed saw a real fairy in the front driveway. Wasting absolutely no time, I shot up and ran to the front door. But there was no mystical fairy waiting for me. And I know what we are all thinking. This made complete sense. We had foolishly been too obvious in our humanly presence and scared the fairy away. My sister described her observations with such vivid details that it could not be a lie. She went on and on about its fluttering, sparkly wings and the yellowy golden hues that radiated from it. For the rest of the trip, I proceeded to spend every minute I could glancing towards the front yard. But I regret to inform you all that I never did see this fairy. And contrary to where I wish this speech was actually going, I'm not going to spend the rest of my time trying to convince you that fairies are real, even if the folklore does hold quite the persuasive power, and Morgan still stands strong in her belief that she really did see a fairy that day. Instead, I want to keep the focus on this smaller version of me, whose biggest worry was whether this fairy visited my grandparents' house again. This past winter, in my Meaning of Life class, Mrs. Seegers brought up the fact that I had spent quite the considerable portion of class talking about things like Disney World, a wondrous pumpkin patch in upstate New York called Pumpkinville, my sister, my childhood home in Buffalo, New York, and a life-sized Elmo that my sister and I dubbed Brother. Mrs. Seegers noted how it seems that I have found a way to stay extremely connected to my childlike sense of joy and wonder, which she had not been aware of previously to the class. And really, I had not been either. While I suppose this has always been a part of me, I would describe myself as an anxious and consistently stressed out person in a heartbeat, over any characteristic that would describe the younger, more carefree version of Rebecca. Writer Brian Doyle claims that every creature on Earth has approximately 2 billion heartbeats to spend in a lifetime. You can either spend them quickly, like a hummingbird, and live 2 frantic years, or you can spend them slowly, like a 200-year-old tortoise. His essay encourages all readers to spend their limited number of potential heartbeats well. As we all grow up, it is easy to use these heartbeats stressing over every homework assignment, after-school activity, social interaction that goes a little awry, and even the pressure of being on the last day of senior speeches. But when I was younger, while of course life was not all sunshine and rainbows, it was not a question whether spending hours trying to interact with a fairy was a satisfactory use of my time. To my beautiful, beautiful class, let's keep spending our heartbeats well in our final quarter of high school and never lose that little kid in all of us as we transition into our next endeavors outside of these walls. And to all of you who have already been or are not yet seniors, you will never be too grown up to choose to let a little pressure off of that upcoming deadline and spend some of your heartbeats dreaming of fairies. Thank you.